All right. Today, we are diving headfirst into one of the most mysterious and honestly haunting visions from the ancient world. We're talking about the opening of the fifth seal from the book of Revelation. So let's get right into it. So picture this. The scene is set somewhere beyond our world, in this heavenly realm. The Apostle John is in some kind of spiritual state, a trance, and he sees an altar. But what's really striking is what he sees underneath it, the souls of those who were martyred. It's this incredibly powerful image that people have been trying to wrap their heads around for, well, centuries. So the big question we're tackling isn't, what do we think this means today? No, we're going back to the source. What did the very first people who read and studied this text believe they were seeing? How did they try to make sense of this incredible mystery about suffering, about justice, and about waiting? Okay, so let's break this vision down, piece by piece. First up, what exactly are these souls? And second, where is this altar? Believe me, the answers are anything but straightforward. So one of the first big ideas comes from a theologian named Tertullian, and it's fascinating. He came up with this concept of corporeal souls. He basically argued that these souls weren't, just ghostly wisps. He believed they had actual physical substance, a kind of spiritual body. The catch? You couldn't see them with your normal eyes, only with a spiritual eye, which is exactly how John was seeing this whole vision in the spirit. All right, so if we're dealing with these tangible, spiritual souls, the next big questions are obvious. Who are they, and where in the world, or out of it, is this altar? Well, this is where things get really interesting because the early thinkers just could not agree. It actually led to two totally different theories about what the afterlife is even like. So this really gets to the heart of the debate. On one side, you got Tertullian. He said, no, this is a very exclusive group. It's only the martyrs, and they're not just anywhere. They're in paradise. Their martyrdom was like a special key that got them in early. But then you have Victorinus at Petavovium, who had a completely different idea. He thought these souls represented all the good people who had died, not just the martyrs. And for him, the altar wasn't a heavenly object at all, but a metaphor for the earth. The souls were waiting under the earth, in a place of rest, still waiting for the final chapter. And, of course, the theories didn't just stop there. People got really creative with it. One theologian, Osumianus, thought maybe they were the saints from the Old Testament. And then centuries later, a scholar named Bede had this beautiful idea. He said the altar wasn't for animal sacrifice at all. Instead, it was a secret place where these souls were offering up this constant, eternal song of praise to God. A totally different spin on what they were doing there. Now, here's where the vision gets really intense. These souls aren't just chilling out. They cry out to God. And what they say, it's probably the most powerful and difficult part of this whole thing. They cry out, "O Lord, how long until you will judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell upon the earth?" I mean, wow. At first glance, that sounds like a straight-up call for revenge, right? A really raw human demand for payback. But here's the twist. Almost none of the early thinkers took it that way. They really pushed back on the whole revenge idea. They were convinced something much, much deeper was going on here. So here's the key takeaway. These theologians completely reframed what that cry meant. They argued it wasn't about personal revenge at all. Not, I hate my enemies. Instead, they saw it as a prayer for God's kingdom to finally arrive. It was about wanting an end to all sin, wanting the resurrection of their bodies to happen, and for the world to finally be made right. It was, as they pointed out, basically a more intense version of the prayer, "Thy kingdom come." So you have this incredibly powerful plea coming from these souls. How does God respond? Well, the answer we get is part comfort and part challenge. The response comes in two parts. First, they're given a gift, white robes. And second, they're given a command. They're told to rest for a little while longer. So let's unpack what both of those things meant. Pretty much everyone agreed on the white robes. They were a symbol of purity, of innocence, a sign that their suffering had washed them clean. Thinkers said it represented the incredible joy they were now feeling, or even the comfort of the Holy Spirit itself. But that brings us to the command to rest a little longer. And that's a tough one, isn't it? I mean, it raises the obvious question. If these people are so righteous, if they've already suffered so much, why the delay? Why do they have to keep waiting? Well, the answer given in the vision is that they have to wait until the total number of their fellow believers is complete. Theologians looked at this and saw it as a sign of God's patience.
The idea was that God isn't delaying things because he doesn't care. He's delaying the end to give more people a chance to join them, to fill up the ranks of the faithful before the final curtain call.
Okay, so we've looked at all these ancient ideas. What's the big takeaway here? Why does this weird ancient vision of souls under an altar still matter to us now?
Well, I think it's pretty clear by now that this isn't some kind of ancient code that has one simple answer. The fact that there were so many different interpretations right from the start tells us that its power isn't in being a puzzle to be solved.
Instead of being a prophecy about one specific event, it's more like a mirror. It reflects back at us our own deepest questions about justice, about suffering, and about hope. It perfectly captures that feeling we all have when we see something wrong in the world and cry out for it to be made right, and also that really difficult tension of having to wait for that to happen.
And that leaves us with one last really challenging thought, one that connects us straight back to those souls under the altar. How do we hold on to hope for justice when we're told we just have to rest a little longer? The vision of the fifth seal doesn't really give us an easy answer. But maybe its real power is that it shows us it's okay and it's human to keep asking the question.